Yes, Meetup number 90. Number 90 means that in just a little while we'll be at the 100th Meetup. I cannot believe it. It's great to be here together with you folks. My name is Barry Salone. I know absolutely nothing about technology, so why am I here? I'm here because I understand that you guys, being in Warsaw and in being in Poland, are the largest and richest workforce in terms of technology in all of Europe. You guys are the talent. You are the future. And I want to be a part of that. Before I came here, back-end development was something I did in the gym. Now I understand a little bit more, so I'm learning every day from all of you what this is. What is technology, what we're all working on. Really happy to see you all here. Is anyone here for the first time? Anybody first time? You're here for the first time? Welcome. We want to remind everyone that we observe here a very strict code, the Berlin Code of Conduct, and that means that we all are nice to each other. We're all polite. There's no abusive language, without sexism, without any prejudice against, I don't know, race, religion, gender, that we're very strictly engaged in polite behavior toward each other. What I wanted to do was to first say welcome to everyone. Welcome for the first time. How many people have been here more than 10 times? More than 10 times? Just 3 of you. Okay. So you understand the idea of pizza and beer. So yes, the idea of, let's say, becoming a stronger community also means, Louisa, I need you here for a second, also means as we work better and we become more of a community, eventually that means better pizza and more beer. Basically, that's it. If you need a reason to be here, this is a good reason. Thank you so much. I'd like to first say welcome to all of our sponsors for this event, number 90, and that's Allegro, CK Source, Call Stack, Fresha, Monday, Pack Help I recognize, PostClick, Prisma, Sumo Logic, Tidio, and Xfang. Give them a hand. Yes, but because without these guys, there will be no better pizza and no more beer. So it's very important. As well, we're bringing you the opportunity to really learn new information about technology from some of the leading experts in our fields on a regular basis. So by the time we get to the 100th meeting, what we hope is that you'll bring someone and you'll bring someone and we'll be an even larger group. We are a group so far of about 6,000 IT professionals. Louise, I need you again. And so far, this is Louisa Haas, everybody. Say hello to her. She's making this all possible. Louisa Haas. You're a group of at least 6,000 IT professionals in Poland already. I'm hoping that by the time, I need to switch to the next slide, by the time we get to the 100th meeting, we'll be 6,500 or 7,000 people. This is a very, very strong force. Our organizing team, by the way, I'm filling in today for Piotr Gentara, who is one of the founders of WJS. He's unfortunately unable to make it today, so he sent me to try to entertain you. And Maciej Machniewski, who also deals with all of our social media and helps us to advertise the work that we do together with Louisa, and Gabriela Chuha. Fantastic. Look at this. We have Pavel Rechnio behind the desk and Louisa Haas over here. We are the tech team that helps to bring this presentation to you and this very important, valuable information at least once per month on the second Wednesday of every month. Is that correct? All right. In addition, we have some volunteers. Anya Lukyanova, Konrad Jakoński, I know these guys perfectly, and Piotr, oh my gosh, is that you? Sławiński? Is that you? So give a hand to the volunteers as well. You're welcome to volunteer your services if you have extra time and you want to become a part of this. Certainly, we invite you to get involved. You guys are the future, as I said before. So we know what WarsawJS is. We're a community of at least 6,000 IT professionals in Poland. And believe me, you are the strongest workforce in all of Europe right now. So take some pride in that. We mentioned the Berlin Code of Conduct already. We're going to try to be civil to each other at least. Now, you can maybe call me an idiot or a jerk or a geek if you like. This language, I think, is acceptable. However, there are certain things we simply will not accept, and that is discrimination on the basis of race, religion, sexual orientation, gender. These types of things will not be tolerated. 5,901, that's not true. It's already over 6,000, so I'm just going to keep skipping over this. This is our beautiful logo. And Trainers Workshop. Okay, I need to be able to see this. You realize I'm blind. So the date, on the 20th of this month, we will have workshop number 61. This is important information. Workshop number 61 with some trainers. Trenerze workshop numer 61. Yes, I can speak Polish a little bit. And you will have Radosław, oh boy, Rozlaniec, and he is going to teach. He's a front-end engineer from Fresta. We will have Mateusz Falkowski, who is a web and mobile developer from Apoidea.pl. We will have Łukasz Hudzinski, who is React Native expert from Callstack. And this workshop is taking place on the 20th of this month of February. So there still may be time for you to register and to buy tickets. If you're interested in that, please get in touch with Louisa and she will help to sign you up. In addition, we have, did I mention them all? I did. So after that, what can I say? We've mentioned our sponsors already. We've given them a hand. We really appreciate them. And finally, okay. This is a standard contest. So we have also in between or after these talks, we have a 5-minute lightning talk session. So if you feel brave enough to come up here and do a presentation for 5 minutes, you may win this contest. And this is a 100% discount for JetBrains license. I don't know how long it lasts, but it is a 100% discount. So all you would need to do would be to come up here and give a 5-minute lightning presentation, and you can win this prize. Pretty simple, right? Public speaking is easy. Everyone can do this. Am I correct? Who said yep? I wonder who. That was from you. Great. It might just be you. So without, whose phone is that? I hear myself echoing. Without any further delay, we're going to have today, our first speaker is going to be Krzysztof Modras. And by the way, after each talk, you will have a chance to ask questions, a question and answer moment where he'll be able to answer some of your questions. Please limit your questions to a simple question, not a complex question, not a question that's attached to another question, just for the sake of time. That would be really fantastic for us. So please, everybody, our very first speaker for this evening is Krzysztof Modras, and he's going to do his talk on tracking the tracker. Krzysztof, are you here?
Hey, hello everyone. Do you hear me?
Krzysztof.
Hello.
Any moment, Krzysztof should appear. I'm not a magician, so I can't just go poof, poof, and Krzysztof is here.
Hello.
Yes?
Do you hear me? Hello.
Help me do that, please. Help me with this one. That's a good question. Louisa, that's why I needed you here. Over here, okay. Go here. There he is. There he is, and full screen. Hold on a moment. You know, because I'm blind here, so I'm a little bit handicapped. Is this him?
Yes.
Okay, hold on. I see you there, Krzysztof. I'm just trying to get you on full screen.
And do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. We can hear you very well.
Perfect. Hello, everyone.
I have a little bit of an echo.
Okay, let's do something about that. So just muting you, Barry, sorry. And yeah, hello everyone. Hope you are all well and healthy. It's a pleasure to be here on WarsawJS stage again, even if virtually this time. And today I'm going to tell you a story on how online tracking looks like and what you can do about it. A story that may get a little scary, but also the story that showcases how we can use our skills to improve the web. A story of tracking the trackers. So I hope you will enjoy it. So let us begin. So the web is driven by standards. You probably know W3C that creates specification for HTML and CSS, and about TC39 that builds the JavaScript specs. Those standard bodies are doing an amazing job of building consensus of how the web should work. This creates an unique environment of constant innovation under control. When we have the consensus, specifications are produced, then browser vendors have to implement them and release in a fixed release schedule. But it all takes time. Most of the modern browsers release a new version every month or every 4 weeks. With all that, browsers create a platform that is not bound to a fixed release cycle. Websites can update whenever they like, providing content and tools we use every day. Web extensions can add features to browsers which otherwise would not exist, as browser vendors would not have time being busy running the infrastructure. But there are also other parties involved, and I will get to them in a moment. Let's talk about web extensions first. Did you know that Firefox invented extensions in 2002? This was like version 0.2. They were one of the reasons behind Firefox's massive success. And when Chrome was starting in 2008, they had no other choice but to start with an extension system as well. Otherwise, many users would simply not be able to switch. They were just too accustomed to the customizations that the Firefox was providing. And today, we are witnessing another generation of the browser wars. This time, it's not about whose engine is fastest or passes more compatibility tests. It's all about features. Today's contenders to the browser wars come with many of popular extension features baked in. This is great as browser vendors acknowledge the value of web extensions ecosystem that is provided. And the value is huge. We are so used to be able to choose our password manager, content blocker, new tab page, or a search engine. Web extensions turn a browser into an operating system that can innovate fast. But you know what else innovate fast? Surveillance advertising. What's that, you ask? Well, let's take a close look on the state of the web. Nowadays, virtually every website comes with dozens of third-party scripts loaded. Some of those are included intentionally by publishers. Others are fetched in runtime by the ad tech. The moment you visit a website, trackers will start gather information about your behavior and share it via ad exchange with even more trackers. Here we see one ad script downloading a bunch of others. And what they do, they gather information about our browsing activity and exchange it between each other, building a complete profile of our behavior. You may think it's okay as they are only interested in your shopping history or maybe search queries. But let's take a deep dive into what trackers actually see. This is a URL log. I hope you can see it fairly well. This is a list of pages visited by a single user. There is no user ID here. As ad tech says, anonymous identifiers are used instead of your identity. So tell me, is such list truly anonymous? Well, this data set comes from a single user. It has around 7,000 entries and spans for about 2 months of regular browsing. At first, we see only searches on Google and Amazon Shopping. Looks safe, doesn't it? I've spent around 40 minutes analyzing this dataset by hand. Was quickly able to group some of the URLs together to learn a few facts about this anonymous user. So what we can learn here? First, the person is definitely a student at Harvard, as he has, and we know which classes he or she is attending. We know that's the fact for sure because we can see the private URLs which are only available to students and to graduates. Next, we can tell what's the professional social network of this person look like, because we see a lot of LinkedIn URLs, which I here do not disclose to protect the people behind those profiles. But we saw quite a few of those. Next, looking by the general URLs, we can quickly scan the interests of this particular person. Judging by the URL, we can definitely tell this person is very much into politics of Saudi Arabia, and most specifically into the petrochemical industry. Judging by the Google Maps URLs, we more or less know in which city and street the person lives. And judging by the booking.com, we know in which hotel she stayed when on her business trip to Cambridge. But it gets even more interesting. We can quickly identify that this person is a MacBook Pro user and has an iPhone. By the way, she's also using Firefox because she's looking for some add-ons. And here's something scary starts. This person tries to self-diagnose for a very specific issue and looks for drugs online. I will not disclose those parts of URLs, as this information is really specific and would easily allow us to de-anonymize this data set. Next, the work. we see the person works in Saudi Arabia government and has access to private resources of those organizations. And likely is looking for a position in a similar job in Qatar. And then we learn about a distinct taste in porn this person has. Actually, now I think that's a guy. There was lots of porn URLs in this blog, in this URL log, believe me. Last but not least, we are able to get user ID of Oxford Business Group and Harvard as well. And in the Google Docs that are not disclosed here, we were able to find names and email addresses of this person and a dozen of their colleagues at Harvard. You can clearly see URL logs are nothing but anonymous. You don't need a user identifier, just acknowledge that such set belongs to a single person. So what can we do about this? Because this is scary. Publishers won't help us as they are in trap of surveillance capitalism. Some browsers like Firefox and Safari do some good work to limit the tracking. What about Chrome? Well, Google earns money from ads, so Chrome stays neutral. Fortunately, there are web extensions that can help. Ad blockers and tracking protection tools utilize the power of web extension platform to protect our privacy. Let's implement a content blocker together. Everything in web extensions starts with a manifest JSON. This JSON file describes what web extension is allowed to do. In this case, we want to block content. So we need an API called web request. We add it to the permission list. We also added this HTTP wildcard to have wide access to all hosts in the browser. This will allow us to get the information about every website. We also have to define a background script, which is a place to run our code. It looks more or less like this. To illustrate the power of Web Request API, we can make web a bit cleaner by removing all images. So this snippet adds a listener to Web Request, which fires every time a browser wants to load an image. And then it stops the request. In result, that's how CNN.com looks like without images. It's a bit lighter, don't you say? That's a certainly noticeable change, right? But we want to web a bit more private, not exactly removed from images. So first, we need to know what to block. Fortunately, there are communities like EasyList that maintain lists of URL patterns that identify ads, trackers, and other annoyances. These lists are huge. They include tens of thousands of block requests. Sorry, block rules. Let's say we have a list of URLs to block, a block list. What we can do is to check every request in the browser if it's included in the block list. And if it does, we block this request. This is a simple snippet. This will work in some extent, but we'll quickly realize that we have to be a bit smarter with comparing the URLs. First of all, matching every request against tens of thousands of URLs will be slow. This is a blocking operation, right? Like takes time. It will also block first-party requests. So if google.com was in your block list, you won't be able to visit that page. Also, the tracking URLs may look a little different every time. You know, query parameters change, subdomains, and so on. To block network requests effectively, we have to use some smart algorithms optimized for this problem. Fortunately, there are content blocking engines like Click's AdBlocker, which will do the work for us. This code snippet will download the latest content blocking rules from the CDN and will automatically use relevant browser APIs like web requests. Well, Congratulations. Now you have your first ads blocking engine. And the web can be fast, clean, and private again. Yeah, but sometimes when we block an ad, an empty space that was dedicated for showing that ad makes the web look bad or even broken. Also, sometimes annoying content comes as HTML, so cannot be blocked on a network layer, or at least not easily. To deal with such cases, web extensions use another capability called content script. Those could be CSS files or JavaScripts. Can be injected on every website, even before page script starts to load. Their role, in our case, will be to hide page elements. And yes, community lists provide those rules as well. To enable a content script, you add it to the manifest, specify on which websites it should match, and which script to load. So if you have Click's ad blocker set up in the background, then with this simple code snippet, you will be benefiting from both network filtering and so-called cosmetic filtering. What happens here, you ask? Without going into much details, the content script, which loads in the context of the page, will get the domain of the page, send the information back to the background, asking for a specific set of CSS that should be applied for this particular website. And when the background will respond, it will inject the CSS to the page or mask individual elements based on the selectors that were provided by the background. Ta-da! Congrats! You now know how to create your very own ad blocker, and it will be blazing fast and simple. Just a few notes. Content scripts have access to website content that can even inject page scripts. Tracking prevention tools use this capability to monkey patch browser APIs like Canvas, cookies, or Fetch. They can replace the browser APIs directly. Wait, what? Yes, web extensions with wide host permissions know everything that you do in the browser. Any web extension can set data anywhere it likes. It is very easy. Take a look on this code snippet. This extension will report entire browser history to a tracking domain. This is very similar to how free flashlight apps steal user data on Android. We don't know, we use those tools, and they scavenge our data behind our backs. As web extensions developers, we have to be very careful with how we use those powerful APIs. And as of users, it all comes down to whom we are willing to trust. Sure, we can check the manifest version for permissions, but background scripts and content scripts are often obfuscated. We check the extension code. If it's open source, then this definitely adds transparency. We should look for browser vendor recommendations. You know, Mozilla does an excellent job by reviewing every single extension they recommend. And I tell you, they review it very thoroughly. They do an amazing job. Because there is a lot of amazing extensions that will benefit your life. And if you will choose the right ones, be sure to share your recommendations with others. Because otherwise, the people can fall into the trap of a poor choice and be a victim of a malicious extension. But let's get back to where we have started. Web is an amazing platform, and it changes very fast. We cannot allow surveillance capitalism to scavenge our data. With web extensions, we can protect our privacy, and we can do it because whenever a new threat comes online, web extension can learn about it and block it. As tracking evolves, so have our tools. This is a task that only web extensions can do, as browsers are unable to adapt that fast. So when a new tracker comes to existence, we have to track it and stop it. I work at Ghosttree, where we gather information about tracking online and publish on the world's largest trackers database, Who Tracks Me. This website can answer questions like which website has most trackers or which trackers have the widest reach. Who Tracks Me is used by researchers, journalists, companies, and curious individuals to bring transparency to the web. Check it out. This is all that I have for you today. My name is Krzysztof Modras. At my work, I do track the trackers. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy your evening and the WarsawJS. Cheers. And if we have questions, I'm happy to answer them. If only I will read them on the Slack, or maybe Barry will be able to transmit them on a call. But thank you. And by the way, I don't hear anything.
Of verification of extension.
Oh, see, we hear you now. It's a loop. It's a big echo.
What's the process of verification of extension? Because I believe you have one, as I've checked in Ghostery.
Can you please repeat?
How much you need to provide to let Mozilla allow you to host your extension there? Thank you.
Can you
Did you hear that question?
Oh, only a second half. Sorry.
Now we don't hear you. Did you hear the question though? Just say yes or no. Did you hear the question? No. Okay. Can we write the question to Krzysztof? Someone please text the question.
Do you hear me, please?
It looks like our only solution here. Although I hear an echo. Oh, in the chat.
Yeah.
What is the process of? Thank you. Someone wrote that. Now we have it going. We're listening for your answer.
Do you hear me now? Hello, do you hear me?
Very little.
Hello, hello.
Yes, yes, we hear you.
Awesome. Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I wish more add-ons will be going through the same process. Basically, what we have to do whenever we submit an add-on, we disclose entire source code, complete diff of all changes, together with all the changelog, like with the Git history. So basically, our extension is open source. So we compare two tags with each other. We send this to Mozilla. Together with tarball of the latest version, they try to reproduce the build locally to ensure that whatever we have delivered is exactly the same that they are reviewing, and that's what is being produced from the source. And then they even look deep into the dependencies that we bundle with our code. So this is a very thorough process. It takes multiple days or even weeks.
Thank you very much for that answer. Was that a clear answer to your question? Anyone else that got any questions for Krzysztof? Krzysztof, we want to thank you very much. Apparently, your presentation was very clear, and people really understood what you were saying. I didn't, of course. I'll have to consult with you privately. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Give him a hand, everybody. Louisa!
Thank you all.
I need to switch the slide because we need to go to our next speaker. Okay. As I mentioned, there will be a question and answer session in between each speaker. And during that time, you have an opportunity to ask one single question. I don't know how everyone understood. Did you really understand every single thing that he said? Because for me, this is all a foreign language. Yes, I'm waiting for Louisa to come on up here for a moment. Come on. Oh, there's our next speaker. Look at that. He seems to have appeared. The thing is, Yeah, I need to know who he is. Exactly. Because I can't do both of these at the same time. Fantastic. Hello, sir. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you
Hi,
hear
I'm
me?
there. Live here in the studio with our studio audience at WJS with the 90th Meetup. And I'd like to introduce you, Vlad tell me how to say this name. Mystetskyi.
Mystetskyi,
Is that right?
Yes.
Fantastic. And the topic of your talk is going to be the new era of no code, low code. Why and how to open your platform for external developers. So we're looking forward to hearing your talk, and I hope you'll be ready for a couple of questions when you're done. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Vlad.
Thank you. Thank you. Of course, we'll have Q&A session in the end. So, hey, everyone. Welcome to this session. I'm really happy to join this meetup today, even though it's remote. I hope next time it will be fully offline or online, whatever. So today we're going to talk about low-code, no-code platforms, and we'll learn why and how you can open your platform or your product that you're working on for external developers. And it has a connection on the with the previous topic, because like you will understand later on why. And before we'll start, a few words about me. My name is Vlad Mystetskyi. I'm originally from Ukraine and I live in Israel for the past 6 years. I joined Monday.com 2 years ago, and I'm leading here Monday Apps framework team. And my team is responsible for actually building an infrastructure which converts Monday to a low-code platform and allows external developers to build applications on top of it. I love music, photography, and web technologies, and my biggest passion is to build platforms for developers, because I really believe that we as developers are the most interesting and the most demanding audience. So building the product for us, it's always a challenge. A little bit about Monday.com products. If you never heard about us, or maybe you tried and used it, or maybe you're using it day to day, actually, we're building a work management system, which is a modular platform which contains a lot of different building blocks. And our users can easily build any workflow they want with these building blocks without any coding skills. But as I already mentioned, also extend and build their own blocks with our low-code framework. Monday.com is a hyper-growth company which went public around 8 months ago. And today we're more than $230 million in annual recurring revenue, ARR, and growing almost twice every year. We have more than 100,000 paying customers from more than 180 countries. And our customers are coming from really different industries and different sizes, from teams of 2 people to teams of thousands of people. And all of them can use the same platform out of the box. And our customers heavily rely on the platform to run their projects, processes, and everyday work. The company is spread all around the world with headquarters in Tel Aviv, and we have big offices also in New York, in London, and Sydney. And we're going to open a new office in Warsaw, which will be our first remote R&D site outside of Tel Aviv. And some numbers from our production system. We are handling more than 500,000 requests per minute on the peak hours, which is usually like 9 a.m. on Monday. We have more than 25 million RPM on the database, more than 8,000 pods on the production Kubernetes cluster, and around 150 developers who are deploying to this monster every day for 10, 20 times each. So about the agenda for the today's topic. In the beginning, I would want to go of what does low-code, no-code platform mean in general. Why is it interesting specifically now? I will share our journey of converting the product into a low-code, no-code platform. And the most importantly, we'll go over how every one of you can do the same and can expose your own product for external developers. I will try to give as much holistic view of the problem and the topic as possible. And we're going to talk about business, product, architecture, processes, technologies. So I hope you will not get bored in the next 30 minutes. And After the talk, as we already mentioned, we will have a Q&A session, so feel free to ask me what you want. And after it, also in the Slack channel and like in all different channels that you want, I will be happy to answer. So let's start. Why is low code, no code is so important for us? In general, I'm not sure that I will be able to see, but I want to ask how many of you, like who heard before about low code, no code platforms or used it in your day-to-day? Let me enlarge the screen. Can you raise the hand, please? Okay, as I thought, not a lot. And I will try to show to you this world, why it's important, and why you need to consider of looking into this direction. So first of all, we need to understand what is a no-code and low-code means and what is the difference between them. Actually, the distinction is not so much about the need to write code or not, but more about the types of people who are using your platform. So no code is built for a non-developer business user who wants to build their application, who wants to build their process without writing even a single line of code. And low code, on the other hand, is for professional developers who will develop applications. And low in this phrase low code means that we want to allow the developer to focus on building the business logic and not on repetitive things like how to build my code, how to package it, how to release it, what is the monitoring infrastructure I need to have, and many more. I want to write the application and as easy as possible deploy it to my users. And because of the ability to develop reusable modules for the business, low-code platform really has the unlimited possibilities. Why it's interesting now? The low-code market is growing dramatically, and from 2018 to 2022, it grew up from 4 billion to 21 billion, which is a lot, more than 5x growth. And right now, there are more than 200 vendors that market their products as low-code platform, and in general, everyone wants to become a platform. And one of the reasons for this is the pace that software development world is running forward and changing. And if you want to change this fast as the industry changing around you, you need to consider this move. And we considered it as well. So we understood the value of becoming a platform and made a strategic shift of becoming a platform for every business. So now I would like to share with you the journey that we took in Monday.com in transforming the WarsawJS into low-code, no-code platform. And this journey is our experience, but I really think it's a good example in general. And like you will also see later on how other platforms like Slack, MS Teams, Zendesk are also doing similar moves and also opening their platforms as much as possible. So our low-code, no-code platform journey started around 4 years ago. It's actually started from the very basics, but I think the most important part is the product market fit of the platform. We were looking to provide the teams with intuitive visual project management platform that could also manage any business process and make accessible to any team of any size without any technical knowledge. I think you all know that Jira, for example, is developers really love this product, but it's really impossible to make other people in the company, sales, product, to love working with Jira. So our mission was to make the product that will be as accessible as possible to everyone who need to manage anything. So we started with the main component in the system, which is called board. And it's the heart of the system. And in general, it's the very easy way to streamline any workflow in minutes. In general, it's a very intuitive and beautiful table where you can add columns and, of course, rows. And then you can use it to list any projects, tasks, any other types of information. And after we saw that people are adopting this tool and start to use it, we moved to the next step. And we learned that our customers wanted to connect the projects and all the data that they have in these boards to external tools. So it was our next step. And we opened the public API on top of the platform. So this enabled something which is called high code solution, meaning that you have the public API, and then someone who wants to do something with it need to build some script or another web page that is going to use this API. And even though this was an important step of our evolution, it wasn't enough because it required a fairly big investment from our users to build solutions on top of the API directly. So we moved to the next phase. And the next step, we started to build different customizable blocks on top of the platform. Customizable building blocks made the platform really flexible because every customer is able to use just drag and drop for the functionality they need, such as boards, forms, visualizations, dashboards, analytics, and quickly create the table-driven apps they need for the business. This is where the no-code stage started. Actually, in low-code, no-code, there is the part of no-code, and this is this part. In the beginning, for example, we had only 7 types of columns, but we thought of the problem in scale, how we can scale the process of adding columns, and we created infrastructure to easily add more columns to the board. We created 20 more in the internal hackathon that we've built, which we involved the whole R&D to build it. And with all of these new columns, boards became much more powerful and much more valuable for a lot of different use cases. In addition, we've built dashboards, which became another building block that we provided, and it turned data into easy-to-use visuals. They gather data from multiple boards and provide insights to leadership or management of the organization, so they can immediately identify bottlenecks, ensure that teams are aligned, and in general, like we all know and love numbers and dashboards, so I won't deep dive too much how valuable it is. The next step and the next building block that we added was the workflow automations. And actually, we wanted to save valuable time for the people and let the platform work for them. And we achieved this by allowing teams to automate repetitive manual tasks in a very easy-to-use form. Allowing users to build what we're calling automation recipes, that they can define what they need in the easy way, like when something happened, do something, and the platform can do the rest for them. And we have the metric of how successful this product is, which we're calculating how many users' actions we saved with automations. And right now we are in more than 1 billion actions. So it's a really crazy achievement. And even though our no-code solutions allowed our customers to build a lot of great solutions, creating the no-code building blocks was still on us, on Monday R&D. And it was really limiting because we have always limiting resources and we cannot build, every day a new recipe or every day the new type of the visualization of data. So we decided that we can allow external developers to implement their own implementation of our building blocks. And this is what is called Monday Apps Framework. With this framework, any developer can build whatever they want to any business niche. You can build what specific integration with some niche tool for a specific country or for specific business vertical. And building this framework really made our platform super flexible and really limitless. During the past 2 years, we are working on this framework and building it. And it really gave this holistic ability to oversee the platform and extend in every different possible way. And it's very similar to the mobile phone. You have two similar devices or even the same devices, but the set of applications which are installed in these devices are totally different, and the usage of them is totally different as well. So as the last phase of this, we opened a marketplace of the application, similar to the App Store or Google Play, where all developers can actually publish their applications, share with Monday customers, and monetize them, making money from them. So this is a very important part, which actually connects a developer to user and makes the whole product exponentially grow, just like, again, iPhone is almost not usable without all the applications that you can install from the App Store. So if we will recap the flow of the evolution and journey of the product, we have 3 main stages. First, we're focusing on the product market fit. Without this, you kind of cannot do anything. Next, you're building a no-code platform, which adds more blocks that people can use to build their own workflows and applications. And finally, you're opening it with the low-code framework, which adds valuable layers to the product and unlock the new abilities to use your platform. And as I already mentioned, R&D, we don't always have the capacity to solve every problem for every client. And having a low-code platform actually allows us to scale the R&D infinitely, because every external developer can go and build a specific feature that some specific client need. So we kind of looking at this, as you can see on the graph, like there are apps and functionalities by us, which are super wide and like need to address the biggest amount of users which are using it, but it is pretty narrow amount. And then we have a lot of different applications that developers are building, which are addressing less wide needs, but there are many more of them. So now we understand in general what does mean the no code and low code and what is the value of it. And let's focus on the last part, how to actually build a low code solution. I want to think together and try to go over all the main things that you need to consider if you will want to open your own product to being able to be extensible for external developers. So let's start with the first step that we need to do. First of all, we need to understand what are the blocks that make sense in our product that we want to give the ability to extend by other developers. It is very much depends on specific of the platform. So you're working on your product and you know what are the needs and what are the things which are very volatile that you can really extend and build a lot of different instances of it. So it can be dashboard widgets, it can be new type of entities, it can be different workflows, different views of tickets, builds, data visualizations, or any other options which suits your specific product. And for the inspiration, let's go over some examples of building blocks in different platforms and how they are allowing you to extend these platforms. So one of the example of the block the developers can build in Monday, let's say, is dashboard widget, as I already said before. And every widget is just gathering data from different data sources and could extend this data with third-party data of another system, let's say, and display in some specific way. And if you will go to even any graph library, you will see how many ways of presenting data in general exist in the world. And each of it can become a widget in the system. Another example of a low-code application is Slack Forms. And like you probably used a lot of these type of forms, and imagine that all of them Slack R&D would need to implement. Like the whole R&D would just work on implementation of different forms of integration with different products. Next example is Zendesk. They have the side panel of every ticket which is coming to the support team, and this side panel is an app. And actually, in this example, this is an integration app with some CRM system where you can, in one button, click and create the lead in the CRM system based on the ticket that you got from the client. Or even wider example is the plugins in the browser. In general, every plugin is a low-code application where browser is actually one of the most powerful low-code platforms that you use every day. And as I already mentioned, think about your system. What are the parts which are flexible and volatile, and think about exposing them, even maybe in the first step, not for external developers, but for internal reusability, because this is also a very right architectural move to define the specific API of the block and allow to build it in an isolated manner. So after we understood what are the building blocks that we want to expose, we need to understand what this block can do and what are the interfaces that of communication between this block and your platform, your system, under which context it can work. It's a global context. It's like something that, floating on top of the whole platform, or it's in the context of specific dashboard, in the context of specific ticket, etc. And which level of freedomness we want to allow this block to have. Another very important thing to answer is how we are going to support unlimited amount of features. So currently, we are saying that every developer can build new features on top of our product. So we do not control how many features, how many widgets we are going to have. And more of that, every customer will use different set of features specifically for their needs. And we need to find a way of how to allow all these features to be discovered in a usable way. And not to come to the awful example of Microsoft Word toolbar. I think all of you saw this screenshot before. One of the possible solutions that we came to is what we're calling feature stores, where features can be categorized, searchable. We can do some specific recommendation based on the user usage of the system or based on the use case that they're using system for. And there can also be other options. For example, Slack is using smart auto suggestions. Whenever you're sending a specific type of file in the channel, it says, hey, I see that it's presentation. Maybe you want to use Google Slides app. There can be also other solutions, some dynamic menus, action bars, or other user experience options. But it's for sure something that needs to be considered when you're doing this change in the product. The second step will be to answer actually how we want to give external developers ability to build their app. I see this here, two main approaches like that different platforms are using. The first one is to provide some very proprietary declarative way of building your app. For example, browser extension is giving you this manifest, but then you can extend it. But let's say Slack is giving you specific structure of the JSON. And you are saying in this JSON, I want to have a form. This form has one text field, two buttons, and this is actually what you can do with this. The second option is to give a developer ability to write their own code on any language or any framework they want. This gives a lot of more flexibility for developers. It also doesn't connect developer to some proprietary technology, as less as possible at least. And we chose this direction because we feel that this allows developers to build much more robust and flexible applications and not being afraid of getting into some proprietary technology. Like, for example, in Salesforce, they have their own language. SAP platform, they have their own language that you need to learn to build the applications on top of it. I really believe in the way that it should be as much as open as possible, and we shouldn't require a lot of connection to the fact that you're building for a specific platform. In general, both options have their pros and cons, and you need to consider which direction you want to take. But I think that this one of allowing to write any type of code is more challenging to implement. So let's go with it. And now think about the way how we can design and implement this system. So the next step is to build the architecture of the solution. How actually we're going to do this? So let's do it together. So let's say that we have the classical web application. Probably most of the platforms and products are something that look like this. We have the front-end host application, which over the API, getting and changing data of the host backend. So I'm calling this as a host application because it will actually host our third-party apps on top of it. So now we want to allow external application to inject itself to our host application. So how we can do this? What is the most naive solution for this? So let's in runtime add a script tag to our host application, which will inject this app into the page from some third-party domain which contains this third-party app. What is the problem with this solution? It's not secure. We always need to remember that any third-party code can be malicious, and it will be malicious at some point. And in this case, it will have access to the user session cookies, can get all the user's data via API. It can ruin your UI. It can get access to your code. And in general, can do whatever it wants. And usually, this is not the level of freedom we want to give third-party developers. And what we can do with it? So let's wrap this third-party script with an iframe. Iframe is the part of the web standard and fully supported by all browsers. And it allows to run third-party code inside of your application in total isolation and in the fully different context. So if we're using iframe, now app has the full isolation. but it's also not good, because what's the value of an app inside of your platform? It's if it's fully isolated. It can be some advertisement banner, but it cannot give any value to the user, real value to the user, because how it can get the data that it needs, how it can communicate somehow with the host application. So here, there is a solution as well. iFrame can communicate with the host application via something which is called post messages. It's the safe method of exchanging serialized data between two different window objects, one in the host application and another one inside of the iFrame. And let's try to think and model what are the communications that we will need between the host application and this iFrame. Actually, there are two main things. First of all, application in the iFrame will want to react to some of the user's actions in the system. Let's say new ticket was created, some job was ran, user moved to another page, or whatever happened in the system, we would want to give the event to the application to react to it. So it will need to listen to these events, which are happening in the host application, and do something with it. This is really important also if you have the interactive application that another user is doing something. So you are getting updates, immediate updates to your front end, and we would want to also give these updates to the application, so user won't need to refresh it every time to get the updated data. Another part of it, after the events, is a case when the application need to perform some set of authorized action for your system in your host application. For example, I'm clicking some button inside of an app, and it needs to open some global system dialog, or it needs to open the ticket in the modal, or it needs to navigate user to another page. A lot of different use cases when an app needs to initiate some action on the application, on the host application itself. Another super important thing for the app is to have an ability to get and change the data from the system via the API that your host application is holding, like host frontend calls the host backend. And because host application is holding cookies or a JWT token or whatever, the application inside of the iFrame can send a specific message to the through the post message, let's say get data, and the host app will take this message and will perform the API call to the backend, get the data, and with the post message, we'll send it back to the iFrame. We are calling this process seamless authentication because from the app point of view, they can just say get data, get this data, and don't implement any type of the oath or any type of the other identity exchange mechanism. So it just works because we are fully controlling this tunnel between the host application and iFrame via post messages. More of that, because our host application is controlling the process of calling the API, it can authorize it based on the specific scopes that we can add to this application. So application, we can authorize application to update only specific parts of the data and define this in the token that host application will enforce for every API call that it's performing for this app. So seamless authentication and permission restrictions together are very powerful because from one side, we're allowing app to get the data as easy as possible, but from the other, we're limiting it for getting and restricting only to the data that this app requires. So for example, in our platform, every app is defining what are the scopes it needs, like boards read, users write, and then whatever they're trying to do via the API will be limited to the scopes that this app is requiring. And we also, to simplify working with these post messages, we can provide an official SDK for our platform, which will encapsulate all of the logic of working between iFrame and host application, and can actually make this as easy callbacks or promises or async awaits that they can do await get data or await API and get the result asynchronously without even knowing that all of these things are happening under the hood. So, for example, our SDK has 4 main capabilities. It's ability to perform API calls with a seamless authentication, ability to get data from the host application, ability to listen to changes from the host application, an ability to execute actions on the host application, as I mentioned earlier. And of course, in a lot of cases, application will also want to perform API calls to its own backend, which can be some third-party product that this app is integrating with, or just the backend, to store some data that app requires, and it's not related to the host backend. And in this case, most probably it will need to have some kind of oath, because it will need to get the connection between identities on its own backend and your system, but still it's possible. So actually what we have right now is the full working solution that we can start building apps on top of. It's secure, it gives us a lot of flexibility, it's not so hard to use it from the app point of view, and the app can be built in any possible way that a developer wants. So we kind of achieved what we wanted. Now let's move to the next very important part of all the picture, which is this API. When we started to build Apps Framework, we understood how important API is for a low-code platform, because actually this is the main gateway for everything, all the ecosystem, to access the data, which is the main asset of your platform. So if we want to do this, we need from now on to start considering API as a product. It means that we need to have a strategy of feature completeness for the API. We need to understand how users are going to explore new capabilities. So we need to have the great documentation, and experience of this documentation should be not worse than the experience of working with the platform itself. We need to think about limiting of your application. What should be the performance and stability of it? In general, the uptime of it needs to be even higher than the uptime of the whole product itself. We need to think about backward compatibility and overall the whole experience of the product. So from this point of time, you need to understand that your API is not just a thing that someone is using sometimes. It is a product that you need to maintain and support and give it the whole attention as to any other product. For example, we are exposing GraphQL API, and we're providing this interactive playground where people can explore what are the things that we have, run the queries simultaneously just from this UI, and actually a lot of things you can do without even opening the official documentation. So next step is actually to make your platform not just a development platform, but a really low-code platform. So we already built a lot of things that you have scopes, you have easy way to query your API, but there are a lot of other things and a lot of other ways how we can make life of developers simpler. So if you will think about the last 3 apps that you've built and how many repetitive things you had to do, like now you need to have UI components. I will take material design or something else. How and where I will host my frontend code. How and where I will host my backend code, like AWS, GCP, Heroku. And now think that's about thousands of developers who are going to build and do these things again and again on top of your platform. So we want to reduce the friction of developers and making them focus on building what they need, the app itself, and not doing these repetitive things. You also need to think about the good development experience. You can do a lot of things like wizards, CLIs, example applications that's like they can go and just copy paste things that will just work for them in the 5 minutes. There is always 5 minutes rule. If you are not giving developer to see the value and hello world in 5 minutes, developer won't use your platform. And of course, we need a very solid documentation, which is easy to use, easy to search from. And I think all of us remember of experience of using some framework or library which has good documentation. You're like, wow, I'm finding everything super easy. I'm opening the page. Here is the answer to my question. Or documentation that is not updated, not maintained. Everything you see, it's probably not going to work. And it's really, really, really changes the way how developers perceive the platform. And in general, are they going to build something for you or not? Another very important part of every developer platform is the community. It's very important that the community will be active, that people will go there and see that it's not symmetry of dead posts, the last updates of 5 years ago, but something that live that you can ask the question and someone will answer you. You can go to Stack Overflow and you can find some answers to the questions regarding this specific platform. And this also gives a lot of confidence for developer that if they will meet a problem, they will find the answer for this problem. And the last step is actually to bring more developers to your platform, because now we need to consider that we are not only B2C or B2B product, we are also B2D, business to developer product and company, and we need to acquire new users of this product, which are developers. So first of all, you always need to think about what is the incentive for someone to build an app for your platform. It can be monetization, making money. It can be user acquisition. So if you have a lot of users in your platform and some product can do even free app, but will get the users to their own platform, create synergy for the similar users. So let's say everyone who is using Slack is also using Google Docs, so they can build an app for each other just to make a synergy integration between these two products. Anyway, there should be an incentive, because without it, no one is going to invest the time in building the application for you. You also need to start building DevRel and Dev Success functions, which will be responsible for both bringing new developers, like high-touch bringing and some marketing activities and so on, and also making them successful, helping them, supporting them in the way that they can build their app from day one to their production. Also think about different events, hackathons, webinars, running competition, participate in public speaking, a lot of different things that people and developers will know and will want to join your platform. And in general, in Monday, we're practicing this from the day one, meaning that's like from the beginning, everyone in the team was doing different parts of these activities. But now we're working on scaling it and building these separate functions for DevRel, for Dev Success, and so on. For example, what we did when we just launched the platform and we were really seeking for first applications for our marketplace, we were running Monday Apps challenges, and every developer in the world could build an app, and we were giving the great prizes for these apps. The main prizes were Teslas. In each of the events, it was different Tesla that we were given, Tesla X, S, and E, 3, sorry. And also a lot of other smaller prizes like PS5s, MacBooks, and so on. And it can sound expensive, but it's really amount of features and amount of apps and amount of clients that these apps give value is much bigger than any of these investments to bring these applications to the marketplace. So this is just one of the examples on how you can give incentive for developers to start building apps on top of your platform, but there can be many more. So if we will do a recap of everything that I just said, and what we learned, we first of all understood what do we want to extend and what are the building blocks that we want to have in the platform, how we want to extend it, how to build an architecture for the solution, how to make an API great product, and how to bring developers to build apps on top of the platform. And in general, it can sound complex and a bit scary that you need to build all of these, but it is actually something that you can do iteratively, step by step, as any other project, agile. And overall, we here launched all of the framework after 2 quarters of 3 developers working on it. And then we're building more and more things on top of. So start small. In the first version, you can expose this not for all external developers, but again, to do this inside of your organization, allow other people from other teams, groups, departments to build applications for your product. And then if you will see the value, you can move forward and open this for external developers. And I really hope that you will think about it and will start thinking how to build and extend your platform for external developers, and do it maybe tomorrow or at least starting Monday. Thank you very much. We can go to the Q&A session now.
Hello, hello.
Hey, I can hear you.
Can you hear us, Vlad?
Yeah.
Okay, we have an echo, but we hear ourselves. Everybody give him a hand, some applause. That was a lot of information, and I understand all of that was 6 easy steps on how to open your platform for external developers. Is that right? Does anyone here have any questions for Vlad? Any single question? Okay, I see someone's hand over here. 1 second, Vlad. I hope you can hear this well.
Hey Vlad, I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
The question, great presentation, by the way. I feel inspired. Question is about no-code solution. This is no code, but still programming because, like, you are writing conditional logic. So I was wondering how you solve the problem of users testing it, debugging it, because you might make a mistake as a user.
Good question. Actually, like about the difference in no code and low code, it's not always so clear. So for example, let's have an example of formulas in Excel, right? So overall, you can say that formula, it's also kind of a programming language, declarative programming language, but a lot of people can use it without even, know what programming is. And then a lot of things is about user experience. So for example, if you're allowing users to write some conditions or formulas inside of the platform, then if there is a mistake, you need to point as soon as possible that there is a mistake. If you're, for example, allowing to write small condition and then run the workflow on top of it, then you should have the action log that will show you, hey, this run didn't happen. This is because this parameter was not like this, or this condition didn't work, or you had some problem in your formula or your expression. So the main thing about debugging and allowing to find problems is to show the problem as soon as possible and never hide it. But it is very different, from product to product. For example, there is product Zapier, which is a really cool workflow tool, also no code, that you're just connecting different blocks. And if something is not working, they're showing you all your failed zaps. They're showing as much information as possible about why this happened, and allow you to understand what was wrong. Did I answer your question? Now I cannot hear. Sorry, I cannot hear anything you just said.
Would you say there is a certain kind of the market, there are certain spheres of activity that are particularly suited for no-code, low-code solutions? Thank you.
Yeah, so the biggest example of no-code, low-code platform is Salesforce. Let's say Atlassian, with all their products, they have amazing marketplace of applications. Zendesk, browser. So overall, everything that has a very, very wide usage. That's different types of people can use it, and the variety of the use cases of using your platform is there are a lot of use cases. So if it's a very something niche, then it's probably not a good fit for low code, no code. If it allows users to use your system in a very big amount of use cases, then it's a good fit.
Good answers. All right. Listen, everyone, we've got to keep this moving. Again, I'm sure there are probably more questions for you now, Vlad, but that was a very informative, I could even tell, great presentation, and we thank you very much. Give him a hand once more, everybody. And thank you. And just before I bring up our last speaker today, I'd like to remind everyone of WarsawJS, which is going to be happening on March 26th of this year. This is an international conference. We have a lot of very interesting and very, very talented speakers coming on many different topics from all over the world. You can see them listed here. You still have plenty of time to register. We really, really hope to see you there. I, again, will be your master of ceremonies, so I'll be there with you. And maybe I'll learn something as well. So again, this has been moved because it was supposed to have happened last year, and we decided to move it forward because of you know what. The C word happened, and we weren't able to gather in public. And so now we're able to, and we really hope to see you all there. Please, again, go to www.wjs.com if you need to buy tickets, get in contact with us. There's still space available. March 26th. Our keynote speakers will be Avital Jubeli and Tejas Kumar. I think I've met one of these, or believe me, I'm blind as a bat. I can't see anything up here. I'm blind. However, I know I will be there. I'm sure they have plenty of interesting and valuable information to share. March 26th, 2022. Be there or be square. All right, finally, our last speaker this evening, I'd like to present, if my telephone will turn around, is, here we go. I'm just going to introduce you properly. You helped us a lot already. This is your first time together with us. Is that right? I'm going to move my computer in just a moment. This is Mateusz Krzeszowiak. Ha-ha! Krzeszowiak. You see, I almost can read from a distance. And his talk this evening is going to be about, the title is A Year of Front-End Optimizations for 13 million of customers. Let's welcome him. Just a moment. One moment, we are experiencing technical difficulties. Still, not again, still. In just a moment, we should have this. Okay, thank you.
All right. Yep. I hope you can hear and see me well. Yeah, everything's fine. Thank you. All right. So yeah, as Barry introduced me already, I'm Mateusz Krzeszowiak, and I came here today to tell you a bit about our journey, how we optimized the front end over last year for 13 million of our customers, because I work for Allegro, the biggest Polish e-commerce site you may actually already heard of. But for me, the journey starts a bit earlier, like 1.5 years ago, when after experiencing quite a severe burnout, I was looking for something else. I was looking for a new opportunity. And I found this offer from Allegro's web performance team. Yes. Oh, this way. Fine. All right. So 1.5 years, a year ago, I found an offer from Allegro's web performance team, and I decided to join them. I decided that this is something for me. And because there are not many dedicated front-end performance teams in the world, I think, I thought that it would be nice to start with telling you what do we even do on our daily basis. So there's obviously a lot of tasks that we take care of, but all of them can be divided into those 4 points. First of all, we monitor if the site is fast. That's quite obvious. We want it to be fast and performant. We are conducting analysis and making investigations, because sometimes it is not as fast as we would like it to be, and we need to know why or how to make it faster. We are implementing improvements that we found, and we are also educating and training other employees, because we are only 4 or 5 people, and in Allegro right now I think works around 4,000 workers, and for us it's just not enough. We need to spread the knowledge, spread the web performance culture around so it actually works. When it comes to our high-level goal, what we would like to achieve, obviously we want our page to be as fast as possible for every single user, But if you would like me to make it a little bit more concrete, it is fine for us if our page is considered fast for at least 90% of all visits that our users make. Yep. So I'm talking to you a lot about this fast word, and you may be wondering, okay, so what does it actually mean for a website to be fast? It may mean a different thing for everybody. And fortunately, we already have some industry standards around the front-end scene. The most notable one is the Core Web Vitals provided by Google. And they pretty much divided the feeling of fastness into those three areas. The first one is around loading, and it is represented by the largest contentful paint metric. It tells us how much time it takes from the page being from users starting to visit the page to the time that they actually can see a meaningful part of the content from their perspective. The second one is connected with interactivity, and this is represented by feed. And feed tells us what is the delay between users interacting physically with the device and browser being actually able to handle that interaction. And the last one represents visual stability. We have something called cumulative layout shift in here, and it tells us how much the page is shifting when users are browsing it across the entire visit, because we don't want anything jumping unexpectedly on the page. Something that's also worth noting is that there are those intervals provided for each of the metrics. They are captioned good, neat, improvement, and poor. And if you fit into one of those, preferably the good one, then you'll be awarded the score. So just to give you a concrete example how it looks like at Allegro, I added here some screenshots. I also added one additional metric on the left called FCP. This is the first contentful paint. And in comparison with LCP, this is the first screen that the user see when they are visiting the page. It doesn't have to contain anything meaningful, just the first indication that something is actually happening, that the web page is actually loading. And as you can see on the example, we just have a basic wireframe being loaded, some search input. Then we have the LCP, and for us, the LCP, the most meaningful element on the page is the product image. And then we have this beautiful example of CLS. As you can see, some nasty ad loaded and pushed all of the offers down, and it made actually the users clicking this ad by mistake because, for example, they just wanted to use the filters. And then when it comes to feed, let's say that the user would click on one of those offers, and the time between the click and the page actually being able to take them to this product is measured as this first input delay. All right, so we already know what we would like to measure, but how we would like to do it. Well, we have also some toolset that can support us. The first kind is the synthetic tests that we can use. Usually, it means that there is some kind of tool that is opening your page in a very controlled environment. The CPU power is set, the network conditions are set, and they are assessing all of those metrics that I've already talked about. What's cool is that there are already ready-made solutions that you can use, and they are free. For example, Google Lighthouse, which is actually built into Google Chrome. And if you would like to get fancier, then we have a web page test, which is a bit more sophisticated. They are also easy to run. You don't have to be on production. You don't have to actually have any URL to run the Lighthouse in your Chrome browser. You can open the page locally and test it. The downside is that there are no real users. You are just simulating everything. So measuring, for example, feed, which is based on the real interaction, is just impossible. so you won't get the full picture. We also have the real user measurements, and this is the kind of tests that are conducted. Those are actually not tests, but we are just collecting the data from user browsers, from you, visiting the website, using the JavaScript APIs that the browsers are providing, and we are sending it to ourselves. The downside is that when you are sending the data to yourself, you need to process it, you need to visualize it, unless otherwise it's useless, right? There are some alternatives to this approach. For example, you can use a page solution. For example, from SpeedCurve, Akamai's Amples, there is also something from Sentry. Or alternatively, you can use some kind of a hybrid solution when you use a ready-made library for collecting the data in the browser, let's say Perfume.js or the Web Vitals provided by Chrome. And then you can send those metrics to your favorite analytics tool like Google Analytics. This data won't be so detailed, but you will already have some slightly better image on how your users are actually experiencing your website. Regardless of the path that you go with synthetic or tests or real user measurements, there's something also provided by Google called Chrome UX report. And what's cool about it is that the Google Chrome is actually collecting the data from all of the users that gave consent to it, this web performance data. And it's providing it for you for free. You can check this report for any public website that there is. You can check a certain either a certain URL or the entire domain. So you can go to the Chrome UX report and check, for example, allegro.pl, how we are performing right now, or any of your websites. You are able to split the data by device, by the network conditions, and much, much more. Unfortunately, there is a catch. The first one that I didn't list here is that the delay is 28 days. So you have to have some patience after developing and deploying the improvements that you did to your page. And the other one is that it requires the page to actually be on production and have some traffic. And there is this asterisk here because some, of course, as Google, they don't provide a certain number how much visits you do need to have. Some sources say it's 800 visits per month, but also some sources say it's 800,000 visits per month. So your mileage may vary. You can just check it. Sorry. So it's not mine. All right. Yep. So, and also I attached here an excerpt from a screenshot from the Chrome UX report from October 2020. So it's just before I joined Allegro. This was our starting point. And as you can see, we also have those percentages here. They say how many of our visitors are experiencing our page in those intervals. So let's say for largest contentful paint, only 82% of our users were actually getting it as fast as we would like to. And I remind you, our goal was to reach 90 in each one of them. All right. So we set on to start with rendering times. This was our first priority. And if you go to the internet and check how to improve the LCP, this rendering time, you'll find a lot of resources. So I don't want to be repeating them here, but they all boil down to those 3 points. First of all, if you can have a fast render from the server, every millisecond that you save there will give you more time on the front end to do what you have to do. Second thing is that the number of resources that the browser needs to parse, for example, styles, scripts, before it is able to show the user anything, has to be as low as possible. And the third one is that you should let the browser know what is going to be required to show this LCP. For example, if your LCP is a big background image in your hero at the top of the page, let's preload the image so the browser already knows, all right, this is high priority, let me download it as fast as possible. But in practice, what we did, we analyzed and cleaned up all of the head section. So we checked the styles that there are, we checked every script, and actually moved it to the end of the body. Anything that doesn't need to be in the head shouldn't be there. We even moved Google Tag Manager, but we did that after analyzing that no data is going to be lost. So be careful, your mileage may vary again. And everything that had to stay, we started optimizing. If you would like to dive deeper into the whole head section, I really recommend the Harry Roberts presentation titled "Get Your Head Straight." He explains every single bit of this section, how it should be structured for the optimal performance. So please, really check it out. All right, so we were fighting for every percent, we were optimizing every byte, and really we were closing into our magical 90% on phones that we wanted to achieve. And on one hand, if we were able to keep this pace, it was fine for us. It could even take 6 months if possible. But what we felt was that there is less and less space for improvements. We were feeling that we are almost hitting the limit, and there is still like 4% to go. So where should we find it? And at this point, you may think, oh, right, come on, guys. Optimizing your head is not that hard. What is so complicated? The whole complication comes from the fact that the Allegro is built on micro frontends. I don't know if you've already heard the term, but it means that basically it means that if you look on our homepage and check the source code, there are many boxes. If we highlight those boxes, it would look something like this. And every single thing that is dashed here in a different color, with those few lines of CSS that I wrote, is a totally separate component. And it means that any page on Allegro can be composed from a selection of over 500 components that we have in our registry. Each one of them is responsible for this small part of HTML to render. Each one of them can declare a different list of static files. Those are scripts or styles. It also doesn't help that the code is deployed multiple times a day. Of course, not all of them will change, but some of them may. And content changes are happening almost all the time, either by hand, by our content managers, or automatically. And this means that doing some upfront improvements is really hard. What we ended up with in this situation was that in order to render a page, for example, a listing page or the offer page, users had to download 100 or tens at least of small CSS files. And also it means that having this distributed independent parts, it makes global improvement even more difficult, because anything that we would like to improve, you need to propagate over all of those separate repositories. We knew that we need to come up with something, otherwise we won't reach our goal. So if you are working with microservices, you are trying to think outside of the box and you just come up with another microservice. And this is how the CSS bundler came to life. Its basic working principle is that after this page is already prepared, we know what kind of static files are needed. We are taking all of the styles, sending the lists to our microservice, which is responsible for merging them into only 3 files, and then we are replacing the references to them in the HTML. And as you can see, we deployed this solution to production around April and May, and we already experienced a huge jump of almost 3% on LCP for our users despite having HTTP2. So if you think that the HTTP2 will save you from bundling your files, you'll have to rethink that. Okay, our next priority was CLS. As you can see, it was abysmal. Only 80% of our users were happy. Everyone else, they are opening the page and everything jumps around. Of course, it wasn't that bad, but it wasn't perfect. When it comes to improving CLS, if you read through the guides and tutorials, they will give you a different techniques, but the basic principle is that you should reserve space for everything that is not server rendered or doesn't appear after user interaction. Because what's cool about CLS is that once user interact with your page, for example, they click something, you are giving a free half-a-second window where anything can jump around. Otherwise, I don't know, things like models, etc., would impact your CLS score, and this is just not right from the user perspective. They are expecting that something is going to shift. But everything other than that, you either had to reserve space or suffer. What we did in practice is that we conducted a lot of tests. We conducted a lot of different improvements, etc. But what we found out is that it's very hard to catch or debug CLS without having those rooms or manual tests. In your synthetic tests, for example, in Lighthouse, because there is no interaction, because the viewport is quite small, it's likely that you won't see any problems with that. Also, tracking in browsers still has some bugs around this metric. We even submitted one of them to Chrome, and I think it will be fixed in the upcoming versions of the browser. And it's especially painful for SPAs. Believe me, because since the CLS is one of the metrics that are counted across the entire visit, if your page is not reloading, the score keeps accumulating. So even small jumps are going to be quite painful over time. And we actually had this on one of our few SPAs that most of our users experience, which are the listing pages. When you go through another page, there is not a full render, only the content changes. And we had this advertisement banner at the top, which was pushing the entire list of offers. It was quite confusing for our users. But since it was coming from Google as an iframe from an external provider, for a lot of time we thought that there's just nothing we can do about it, because we don't know if it's going to be there, and we don't know what are going to be its dimensions. But then we thought, okay, we don't know the exact dimensions, but what if we go with the good enough solution? And we are already providing Google multiple possible dimensions. So just let's take the biggest one, reserve space for it, and hopefully for more of our users, it will be all right. And this is the example how it ended up with. You can see that we started reserving some space. It is not perfect. There is still this small jump because the banner ends up being a bit smaller. But at the same time, it was good enough for more of our users that over time we've been able to hit our 90% threshold. So another lesson, something good enough is sometimes good enough is better than nothing. All right. But I wouldn't want you to think that working in a web performance team is only doing some cool improvements everybody loves. It's also fighting regressions, and there are some weird ones. The first one is still connected with the CLS that I already told you about. There was this huge jump in this metric back on the listing pages. We just thought, oh no, not again. And what actually happened, our assumption that everybody is served the ad was just wrong. At some point, Google decided, you won't get any ad, you won't get any ad, you won't get any ad. And at this situation, if you didn't get any banner, we were just collapsing the space that we reserved. Hence, everything was jumping again. So the lower emission of ads, made the box being collapsed, and higher CLS. The downside was that there's nothing we could do about it. It was the Google mechanism, it's internal magic. But the good side was that after some time, it got better. Our users were getting more ads. And at this point, we thought, okay, sometimes not enough ads is it's better to have something than nothing. We are also having some mysterious regressions. Here you can see three metrics that I mentioned: FCP, LCP, and FIT. And as you can see, almost at the same point, I think even at the same time, each one of them was getting worse. We started to wonder, okay, what is happening right now? Started investigating. Of course, first we looked into our synthetic tests. And this is the web performance score that we are plotting from Google Lighthouse. And as you can see, there is this jump. So the score is better at the beginning, but this is irrelevant to this regression because it happened around in the middle. And anything other than that is 1 point fluctuation, which is nothing. So this is an example where static tests give you just nothing. Fortunately, we found out that the increased traffic was happening from Chrome Web View. The visits were coming from mainly new clients, and requested URLs often contained those UTM tags. And we thought, we saw those UTM tags in, for example, email campaigns. So let's just ask our marketing team if they know what is happening. And they say, yeah, we have a marketing campaign on Facebook. And much more people were coming from the Facebook app throughout Chrome Web View without any caches. And that's why our page got slower. And this is another example where you just cannot do anything about this. You can just improve your web performance so it's better for everyone, but there is no magic switch which will make the page faster. All right, so I told you about LCP, I told you about CLS. What about FIT? Well, here I left it for last because this is it's a quite complicated beast. Because in theory, every tutorial will tell you, yeah, just have less JavaScript, don't block the main thread, and everything is going to be fine. All right, maybe it's fine if you are going from 3 megabytes to a few dozen kilobytes of JavaScript, and then you will see some kind of change. But everything other than that gives pretty much, gets to diminishing returns very quickly. Also, the current state of tooling and APIs that we have in the browser doesn't help. There's virtually no way to tell what was browser doing when the user interaction happened. So you just cannot optimize it because you don't know what it was. And the sad truth is that most often those will be the third-party scripts, and try to go to your marketing, to your product teams and say, hey, let's get rid of Google Tag Manager. Good luck with that. So, but just not to sound so doubtful, I will leave you with this best correlation that we have and that you can actually control of your pages. And this is a correlation between number of DOM elements and the first input delay. Here you can see the regression that we had because we had one of those smart weeks or black week or something when the content changes a lot on our website, and we have this mechanism which makes the content lazy loading only once you scroll to it. So initially the HTML is much lighter, but since the new content was coming, somebody forgot to enable this this mechanism, and users were getting the entire page on the first visit. And here you can see once the number of DOM elements jumped, the feed almost jumped the same. And once we fixed that, everything got back to normal. So be mindful about the number of DOM elements on your page. All right, that's a lot of complicated words, complicated things, a lot of tedious work. You may wonder, why do we even bother? Why Allegro has a dedicated front-end web performance team? In every job description, there is this line, writes efficient, performant code. So why do we even need this dedicated team to do it? And why does it even, who would like to even pay for that? Well, first of all, what is good for our organization is CEO. So some time ago, Google announced, and this is already happening, that if your website in this Chrome UX report is considered fast for at least 75%, so it's not 90, it's only 75% of your users, then you're going to get a small boost in your search ranking. So this is the first thing. Also, if your page is faster and lighter, it means that Google crawler, which has a fixed budget for your page, can visit more of your sub pages. And since we have a lot of sub pages like offers and listings, it was quite important and had a quite big impact on that, you can believe me. Another thing is our users and the business, because faster website means that users have better experience, they are less frustrated, both with our page and with the entire company. And since they are less frustrated and have better experience, they have higher engagement rate and the better conversion. They just spend more money. And we knew that, but we wanted to calculate by how much. And we asked our analytics team, and those are the numbers for Allegro for 2020. And they were able to come up with those three statements, that for every 100 millisecond drop in first input delay, Allegro loses 3% of GMV. For every 100 millisecond slowdown in first contentful paint, we'll lose 1.5% of GMV, and 100 millisecond slowdown in the largest contentful paint will mean 0.5% GMV. And if you take those numbers, take our improvements, and go to any business people and compare that with other initiatives, I assure you, it really blows their mind that there's such a big impact. Okay, so in summary, first of all, know what you improve, and in order to know how you improve and what to improve, you need to measure. Please do not start improving before you know how to measure it. This is something we as a professional team, which is doing exactly that. Sometimes we even fall for that, and there's nothing more daunting and making you feel bad about the work, the work that you did, when your change didn't have as much impact that you wanted it to have, and you are not even able to measure it. Second one is that without real user measurements, you won't get the full picture of the experience that your users are having. A lot of things, a lot of regressions will go under your radar, and you will just not know it was there in the first place. The third one is that small, good enough changes are better than nothing. Don't be afraid to experiment, to make something just good enough and see how it affects your users. But to see, you will have to measure. Remember that. And the last one is that it's worth to invest in web performance. Your CEO will thank you, your users will thank you, and your business people will thank you for that. So if you're not already doing and investing into it, you can start to do so. It wouldn't be a complete journey without giving you the results. So this is the year-to-year comparison, October 2020 to October 2021. As you can see, through all of the improvements and hacks and things that we did, we've been able to reach our goal of having at least 90% of fast and happy users. But I already know that our journey is far from over. There are much more things to be done. And we also need to maintain that, which is another beast on its own. All right, if you would like to join us on this journey, then you can check our job listings. But without any further ado, thank you very much. And I'm open for your questions.
Hello. Do I have a microphone? Do I not have a microphone? You have the microphone. Okay, we have time for a couple of quick questions. I think it was fantastic. First presentation here at WarsawJS. Excellent, totally. Really enjoyed it. Question? Take this.
Two quick questions. How
Yes, sir.
much of server-side rendering are you doing at Allegro? And second question.
We said one question.
So
Okay, go ahead.
Let's join it.
Go ahead.
And exactly, yeah. Double
And.
100%. And second question, what are your next goals as Allegro Web Vitals team? Thank you.
Yes, of course. Sorry for the extra question.
It's fine. Those are great questions, actually. So we server-side render pretty much everything that we can. If it is critical, then you need to server-side render it. So if it's playing a role in any of those metrics that I told you about, you are going to have to server-side render it. So as a rule of thumb, server-side render everything, I would say. And in terms of our next goals, we just have, first of all, we want to reach even higher percentages for the sub pages that we already had, and we are expanding through more sub pages because we are paying attention to the entire origin, to the entire allegro.pl and all of these sub pages. But we also have divided metrics, for example, for homepage, for offer pages, for listing pages, and there are many pages that receive a lot of traffic, but their performance is not ideal. So we are just expanding further.
Thank you. Back to this side of the room. Can everyone over there hear okay? Can you hear all right? Good, just checking, because this microphone is a little bit shy. Okay.
Okay. Having to maintain performance once you attain it suggests that there might be some factors that might be lowering the performance. And for example, one of these I could think of would be, for example, bad code practices. And maybe one of the ways to improve it would be training your team. However, what are some of the key bad practices or key good practices that you would specify that would benefit everyone if they implemented them? Thank you.
Training your team. That's a tough question. I'm sorry. Okay, here we go.
Okay, so I would be able to give an entire presentation on that, actually.
Exactly.
We have the entire trainings, internal trainings for teams, and we are doing regular workshops. But and we have I think actually on our tech blog you are able to read about the web perf culture that we are trying to build. So if you're interested, check our Allegro Tech blog. But when it comes to the most usual scenes or bad practices, one I already mentioned: try to server-side render your things. Don't throw unnecessary dependencies, or at least check how big are your dependencies. Not everything has to be done in JavaScript. And if you can, do it in vanilla.js, please. Yeah.
Not everything has to be done in JavaScript. Oh my gosh, the world is ending. I thought this was fantastic. You're a really, really excellent presenter, and that was very informative. Unfortunately, we've sort of run out of time for questions. I think you'll be here for a few more minutes if anyone has any questions. We promised a present. We have a contest going on. If anyone has a 5-minute lightning talk that they would like to offer right now, 5 minutes to get up here and speak and say something and win a free license for JetBrains from JetBrains. Anyone brave enough to get up here for 5 minutes and speak to this lovely audience? Fantastic audience, attentive audience, intelligent audience. Anyone? Okay, come on, let's do it. 5 minutes. Welcome. Give this guy a hand. No, bravo, bravo. Before you begin, hi, I'm Barry. What's your topic going to be?
TypeScript.
TypeScript. 5 minutes. Ready?
Yeah.
Go.
Wait.
No, go.
Like a browser, because I have a presentation.
You have a 5-minute presentation. Okay, we're gonna set you up. How do we set you up with the slides quickly? Let's do it quickly. Let's do it right now. Hook him up. Hook him up. Hook him up. It's not gonna be with my computer. It's gonna be here. Oops, be careful. No, time's not running. We promised 5th minute, 5 minutes.
Browser will do. I have no speaker notes.
5 minutes, folks. And of course, better pizza and more beer. No, more pizza and better beer. That's what it's going to be. All right, we are there. Dun, 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 dun. Share. We got you. Yes? On my laptop. Can you believe this is happening? I don't believe it either. Let's do it. Dear God, help me. I like the idea of this whole tracker thing, yeah? I like the fact that we now know that there are people tracking us. I got to pay attention to what's going on my laptop and how to prevent people. Oh, ooh. Okay, so you know what this means? You know what this means? I think you're going to have to rely on your verbal talents right now. We need you to speak for 5 minutes. You've gone incognito. Oh. This is on my laptop. They're coming to take me away. Can you do this verbally?
Yeah, I guess.
Once again, what's your name again?
I'm Rafał Podlipny. I'm
Rafał Podlipny, everybody. Give him a hand. Let's go.
I'm a tech lead from Fresha. I work mostly in backend. But as a tech lead, I know what is going on front end as well. What I wanted to talk about here today is, let me take a look at the time for today, okay, is TypeScript. Because I hear in this community on WarsawJS, but also in my company, a lot of talking about let's introduce TypeScript. TypeScript is the best language in the world. Everybody seems to migrate to TypeScript. And don't get me wrong, like I love languages that are strongly typed. Like I come from Java. So, but I want in front of you to play a devil's advocate, I guess, because I don't like to spend money on things that don't bring a lot of value, and migrating to TypeScript costs money. So my first argument why not to use TypeScript is the fact that types are just comments, like neatly structured, checked during the compile time, but still comments. Like your browser do not know about types. Your users do not know about types. So you don't strictly need them. Like you do need them as programmers, but you can do without them. So that's one. The second argument is that like no type system is perfect, including TypeScript. Like there are some things that you just can't express with TypeScript, like, I don't know, like dependent types, linear types, higher candidate types, immutable structures, and also like TypeScript has this pesky feature of being gradually typed. So yeah, I guess most of libraries you are using are already typed, but there is like this really like one library that you want to use but has no types. So you have just any.
1 minute.
1 minute. So the third thing is that the types are not that helpful anyway. Like there is some paper from Google, I guess, that they measured if they introduce type to the JavaScript code, how many bugs less there will be, and the answer is 15%, which might be a lot, might be not. Depends on your case, I guess, but I expected more. And the last argument is that introducing TypeScript is just an investment. And I wanted to encourage all of you to be a wise investor and think if introducing TypeScript is really the best thing, technical thing, while not developing features that you can do to push your company forward. And I guess that's it.
Wow. Rafał. Rafał. Pani Rafał, that was amazing for a lightning talk with we look forward to your next presentation. He was good, right? He got up here with balls and he said he made his case, and I believed you. I believed everything you said. Thank you very, very much. That was excellent. And make sure you collect your free prize, okay? This is your one, I don't know how long it lasts, free license from JetBrains, okay? Listen, everyone, I just want to thank you again for paying attention, for being very attentive and being a great group today. Remember, we're just 10 meetings away from the 100th celebration. Before I leave, I'd just like to remind you once more about Confront.js, our conference, which is going to happen on March 26th of this year. That means we have a little more than a month to buy your tickets, and please be there. Looking forward to seeing you there. And I would like to thank once again our sponsors. Louisa, are you there with the sponsors? Okay, and they are, yeah, we need them over here too. I'd like to thank them each because they make this possible, and therefore we have great educational material. We also have great I hear an echo of myself. I'd like to thank all of our sponsors once again. And we have them, we are able to all enrich ourselves and become more educated. Thank you very much, because my screen is gone. And those sponsors are Allegro, Fresha, PostClick, CK Source, Monday, Prisma, TDO, CallStack, PackHelp, Sumo Logic, and Xfang. That's correct. Guys, thank you very much. Please enjoy your beer and pizza. Stay for the networking session, and we'll see you next time. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a good night.